Welcome to the Energetically You podcast, where we will be talking about healthy habits, abundant mindset, and optimal wellness. I'm your host, Megan Swan, creator of the Sustainable Integrated Wellness Approach. At 30, I sold everything and went on my own eat, pray, love journey, if you will. And now, at 41, I'm still on my first stop here in Mexico, loving life and feeling more energy than ever before. This podcast is for ambitious women who are looking to level up their energy so that they feel happier and more productive throughout their day in all of their projects and passions. Inside, we are going to be talking about ways to truly tune in to our minds and bodies in new ways to leverage our natural energy sources. So let's dive in. Welcome back to Energetically You. I'm so thrilled today to have a very special guest. Her name is Laura Silverman. She has been a booze-free babe since July of 2007, so she's way up on me in terms of her sobriety. Can't wait to hear about her story. She is the founder of a lifestyle blog called the Sobriety Collective, a wellness travel site, booze-free in DC, and Zero Proof Nation, a growing community celebrating non-alcoholic beverages and the people who drink and create them. Oh my goodness, we have so much to talk about. Laura is passionate about #the sober life. And when not tasting delicious new booze-free beverages, she's a karaoke rock star, roller derby girl, nature lover, and mental health advocate, and treasures spending time with her close friends and family. Welcome to the podcast, Laura. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me, Megan. What a bio. What an intro.
Well, it's always a little bit uncomfortable when somebody else reads it off, but it's really important that we own all of the amazing things that we're doing as well. So tell us, long or short, the version of your sobriety story that you wish to share today.
Sure. Yeah. Well, hi, everyone. As Megan said, my name is Laura Silverman. I have been a booze-free babe or sober since July of 2007. I only drank for 6 years of my life. It was a very action-packed time, and I had a lot of undiagnosed mental health gunk, as I call it. I had OCD, panic disorder, generalized anxiety, and none of it had been diagnosed. None of it was treated. And I'll just fast forward a lot, but basically I was an anxious kid, but not like overly so. And I was also very sensitive as I found out in adulthood. That means I'm more empathetic and compassionate. But as a kid, I was very sensitive, and I was a target for bullying. And for many, many years, I was just constantly picked on, and it really tore at my self-esteem, or what little I had. And so by the time I got to college, so again, this is fast forwarding a lot, but by the time I got to college, I was just ready to reinvent myself. And it's such a cliche. It's such a cliched story, but cliches often have some roots in truth. They become a cliche because it's been done so many times, but many people try to reinvent themselves in college, and many people fall into binge drinking. And in the early aughts, as it were, there were certainly no non-alcoholic options. Not that I was looking for them, but there wasn't a lot in terms of like healthy partying in college. And I just wanted to turns out I was self-medicating as well, not knowing it at the time, but I just wanted to feel cool for once. And like, as the words escape my mouth, I feel kind of cringy because like drinking doesn't make you cool, but it gave me the illusion of feeling accepted. And it gave me the illusion of having my inhibitions be lessened. And anyway, as it is a progressive disease or a progressive disorder, I kept getting worse in a very short period of time. And by the time those 6 years were over, in the last 18 months, I was hospitalized twice for alcohol poisoning. I had been in a lot of different sketchy situations, did a lot of unwanted sexual situations, behaviors. It was bad. It was bad. And the last time I ever drank, I was in New York City. I had seen a concert, well, quote unquote scene, I don't remember it, at Madison Square Garden. And I got separated from the group that I was with. And that is a huge, huge venue. And the fact that I made it out alive and safely. I mean, I was just wandering outside of the venue, confused, crying, alone, didn't have my purse, didn't have my shoes. It was mortifying, but I wasn't of the mind that I could even be mortified. I was just that far gone, and I was taken to a hospital and kept there for safekeeping, essentially. And by the time I came to out of my blackout and my passing out the next morning, there had been a phone tree going on in my family, and no one had heard from me for like 7 or 8 hours. And I had only turned 24, so I was really young. And suffice it to say, I got reunited with my cousin who I was supposed to stay with, and my purse, which was turned into a security guard. And all of my things were intact and in there, including my bus ticket back to DC, which is where I live in Washington, DC. And so it felt kind of miraculous considering everything that had happened. Some people call it a higher power moment. Some people call it a coincidence, and some people just call it luck, but I'm happy to call it all of the above, because there were many different gears that were turning that allowed me to return home safely. And it was at that point that I knew that I couldn't continue living this way. I also didn't know how I was going to survive without alcohol as a 24-year-old, but I knew I couldn't keep drinking. So it's like, I can't live with alcohol and I can't live without it. And, I wasn't a daily drinker. I wasn't physiologically addicted to it, but I was definitely psychologically dependent on it. Mm-hmm. And it had become a crutch in my life. And I didn't think about quitting forever, because forever is it's a long time. But I knew that I needed some sort of professional intervention to help me. So I called the health insurance line on the back of my health insurance card for substance abuse and mental health services. I knew enough that I had some sort of problem, whether or not I was fully ready to admit that I needed like professional help. I knew I needed to see someone to just talk about it. Mm-hmm. And I met with someone the next day, and I started an intensive outpatient program, which are becoming much more well-known. But at the time, I hadn't heard of one before. It was essentially treatment that I could fit into my work schedule. Mm-hmm. So I was in my first job out of college, and I did 5 weeks with them. And it was also required that I go to Alcoholics Anonymous, which I didn't want to do, but I didn't have any other options or choices in the matter. And so I went, and that got me started. And honestly, I didn't think I would not want to drink for the rest of my life, but I don't necessarily think about it that way either. It's just become my life, and I don't have to think about drinking or not drinking anymore. It's just life and mental health, and, things get better when you stop drinking, but things also get worse, and you have to address them. You have to address the issues that come up. So it's a combination of things, but I'm just so much happier now that I don't have to deal with all of that nonsense, and I can wake up not hungover. I mean, honestly, if someone asked me what is the best part about not drinking in 14 years, I would say no hangovers. Like, I get to enjoy my day, whether it means I'm going out hiking or camping or just like laying in bed all day, but not because I have to, but because I want to. That's the nutshell version of everything.
Wow, we have so much in common. So I love that you called out, because I think it's a very common narrative that we get to adolescence, and then for sure college or university, and alcoholism is essentially normalized or even glorified. There's just a lot of pressure. I mean, so many of my narratives around why I drank really initiated in maybe not just in university, but in those initial social groups that I had in my late teens. And it is this illusion. And I think it's particularly as women, like I told myself that it was like this empowering thing, you know, like that I felt the more confidence and, you know, really like all the crazy things that I wanted to do. It was just easier to rationalize them if you had like the mask of you being drunk, right?
Mm-hmm. Totally a mask. And yeah, I mean, if I could drink with the boys, then I was considered like cool and one of them. And I mean, yeah, it's the illusion, and it's definitely a mask, but it doesn't become evident that it's all of that when you're doing it. And I think it's honestly hindsight in sobriety, but also in aging, like just having some distance between that behavior and that time in my life and where I am now. It's so much easier to see that. But as they say, time takes time. You can't rush progress. You can't rush a process. You just have to, like, the only way out is through, right? So you have to go through it to understand it. And sometimes it's really painful to go through that process. But I really feel for, I mean, honestly though, backing up a little bit, I was going to say, I really feel for like the young kids these days, but then I caught myself because that generation is really gravitating more towards the sober, curious lifestyle. Maybe they do drink, but they don't drink much, or they drink more like functional adaptogenic things, or CBD beverages or something like that. They're not, and I'm generalizing because I know that there are some that don't do any of that and some that do the complete opposite and go overboard. But generally speaking, what I found is like Gen Z and the young millennials are just more about health and wellness and sober curiosity, which I think is a really great place to be. And as it turns out, in my college, there were things to do that didn't revolve around drinking. I just didn't know much about them.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, I wasn't looking for them. I wasn't seeking them.
Yeah. And I don't know if this resonates with you, but I mean, looking back, I can't remember what show had, but I mean, basically, you know, if I managed to be on a date with someone via a dating app, mm-hmm. and they didn't drink, I was like immediately uncomfortable, B, judgmental, like all of these things that they were like a less cool human being, or like really even just trying to understand, like, how did they live without alcohol being a big part of their, like, how is that even possible?
It's up a mirror to our own actions and behaviors. And I knew that when I wasn't drinking, before I even started, I was judging the people who were drinking. I was like, I don't need to be like them. Then when I was drinking, I was judging the people who weren't drinking. And then when I got sober, I really tried hard not to judge everyone or anyone, because everyone's going through their own thing. But I absolutely agree. Like when I was drinking, if someone didn't drink, I'm like, what's up with them? Like, what's wrong with them? And if someone did have a drink on a date or in a group of friends or whatever, and left like half of it or a quarter of it, I'm like, why? There is so much like nectar to be drunk. Like, why would you leave a half drunk glass of whatever? So that also made me realize, like, if I was always constantly obsessing about it, and it's just better to not have.
My husband and I were actually just talking about that this morning, because he was sharing this meme. He's like, I know you're not going to think it's so funny because you're sober, but like basically it was like a grandmother taking care of her baby niece or nephew, like that was standing at a coffee table, an infant that can barely stand. And the infant knocks over the champagne glass, and the grandmother like goes to save the champagne, and the baby like falls. And like, that's
and terrible.
Then I said, but it's so true. I mean, when you're in,
I know.
You have all these narratives about the sacred nature of not wasting alcohol, right? Like you can't leave it half drunk. If you spill it, you know, you buy the next round. Like these are, I'm talking about.
Party foul. Yeah. Wow, that is hilarious. I'm sorry that I laughed so hard because it's sad, but it's true. So it's so much better to be on the other side of it. And now that there are so many things to do and to drink that don't involve alcohol, but are still part of like the social rituals, or just like, you know, I can drink by myself, I can drink alone, and it's not a creepy thing because I'm drinking a non-alcoholic cocktail. I'm not drinking a whole bottle of non-alcoholic spirit. I don't drink NA beverages the way that I drank alcohol, which I think the way that I used to romanticize drinking, like, oh, it'd be so nice to have a glass of wine with dinner or like a margarita at a happy hour or something. But now I drink non-alcoholic beverages the way that I romanticize drinking, because honestly, when I did drink, I just drank to get drunk. I didn't drink for the taste, for the ritual. I just wanted to feel not what I was feeling.
Yeah, well, I think that's a huge piece. Like I have the same experience. I can enjoy for the ritual, like a non-alcoholic beer. And here in Mexico, they put a little salt and a lime and there's like a little ritual around that. But I can't drink sometimes even one, let alone two, when I used to drink 6 or 8 over the course of a night. Right. So it's like a huge shift that you're no longer seeking to be unconscious. Like that's what most alcoholics, either consciously or subconsciously, you're seeking numbness instead of clarity. And so tell us about this. How did you get involved being so, an advocate or creating community around these non-alcoholic beverages? I love that.
Vocal, loquacious. So yeah, and I didn't know you were in Mexico. That's really interesting. I want to put a pin in that and get back to that because I speak Spanish. Okay. I was coming up on 8 years of sobriety. And up until then, I wasn't aware that there was anything online, like blogs or podcasts or whatever, because I was, for a while, not very long, but for a couple of years, I was part of a 12-step community that was very anonymous and we weren't allowed to talk about things online. And we certainly weren't encouraged to start blogs or podcasts about recovery. And so I was never anonymous with my story and with my friends and family and even my colleagues. Like I wanted to show that I was sober and it was cool. And if they didn't think it was cool, that's okay too. But I thought it was cool. But I hadn't really been sharing my story on a more public scale. And at one point I just decided I want to do this. I want to start a blog. And I didn't really have many ideas at first. I just wanted to tell my story and connect with other people, especially other people who found recovery in alternative ways. And then that morphed into creatives in sobriety, whether they identified as in recovery or not, they were sober creatives. And so that was a blog called the Sobriety Collective, which I don't do much with anymore, but I want it to live on in sort of perpetuity for people to access as a resource to connect with other people and to just learn more about the movement. But I wanted to just connect with others because it had been a few years since I left AA. Now I credit that 12-step program with adding a lot to my early sobriety, a lot to my journey and my foundation. And so I don't bash it, but I also know that it can be toxic. And I got what I needed. I left the rest and then I was ready to move on with my life. I didn't want to stay in those rooms forever, but I also knew that I needed some frameworks and guidelines to kind of help me get started. Well, when I was ready to leave, I did. And then 4 years go by and I missed community. And for whatever I'll say or whatever other people will say about, 12-step fellowships, they do provide community, whether or not it's healthy, toxic, somewhere in between, sometimes both. And I missed people. I missed sober people. So I was like, well, if I start this blog, I can connect with others. And that was honestly the best decision I've ever made because it's allowed my world to be so much more open. And the other things that I have since started, Booze Free in DC, which is about discovering the Washington, DC area from a booze-free lens, and Zero Proof Nation, which is all about non-alcoholic beverages and their founders and cool people in the space that are, elevating the movement. I wouldn't have started those things had I not started the Sobriety Collective, had I not connected with people who were vocal about their stories, not hiding in the shadows. And it started out with recovery, but alternative recovery. And then it just morphed into the sober life, the booze-free life, just a substance-free lifestyle. And it's like any process. It's been a journey. It hasn't all happened overnight. And I have imposter syndrome a lot, and just, I have to remind myself that even if I help one person, then that's the goal. I've never gone viral. I don't have like 100,000 followers. And frankly, you mentioned something, it was so cute in your Instagram story about like, I have such a big social media account. Well, I got like 30 likes on a post today, maybe it's the algorithm, maybe it's whatever, but, at the end of the day, it's like, if I'm doing what I love and I'm connecting with people, who are making a difference, and I'm helping sort of elevate a movement that can help people, whether or not they identify as needing treatment or recovery, or whether they're like gray area drinkers, or even if they just drink like once a week, but it's not serving them anymore and they want other options and they still want to be social. It's just, I'm just really jazzed and energized by where this movement is going. And I've kind of, to be honest, I've kind of, unknowingly kind of distanced myself from the label of recovery, even though I'm still in it. I still believe in it. I still absolutely want people to find it if it's what works for them. But I don't like to talk about it all the time. I just want to like live my life, and it's like a booze-free life. So that's kind of where I am and where it's all taken me. But I wouldn't have done any of this, started any of this, had it not been for like the desire to connect with other people, share my story more publicly. And it's opened my world. I've been able to connect with so many amazing people around the world, and it's humbling, and it's really gratifying too.
Yeah, I really identify with a lot of things you just said. So first, just to comment on, because for me, I was never in AA or in that world either. And I think it's really important that we open the conversation. One, that there are multiple paths to sobriety, that really like my interest is educating like just greater awareness about one's relationship with alcohol. It doesn't even have to be 100% sober for some people. It's just like reevaluating, how is it serving me? Is it serving me? All those things. I'm doing a project with a girlfriend, a fellow sober mom. We really want to elevate the conversation for moms around like there's a very totally fucked up culture around parenting in general, but specifically to moms, that cool moms drink, that fun moms drink, that you need wine in order to parent.
Mommy juice, all of that. It's terrible. It's so toxic.
And there's just a lot of moms that I know are questioning like their relationship with those couple of glasses of wine that they have at the end, or whatever they're drinking at the end of the day to quote unquote relax themselves. And it's just this vicious cycle. And I think we want to bring more attention to that, because there are so many options. Like you say, like it's more about talking about how great your life is, and great your, the sober life isn't boring. So as I was saying, motherhood, hashtag motherhood, unplugged. I think that it's really important what you said about, for me, it was yoga, having like this really dogmatic community that provided me a structure and community and rules, and like all these very strict guidelines that at the time, like I needed to see that as a container, but then it got to a point where that didn't serve me any longer. And it's not something, for a while I had this sort of like identity crisis of like having to break up with the yoga community. And it's like, no, you can still appreciate everything for, what AA did for you and all of the community it provided, the structure, the container. And also that's not a part of my specific identity anymore. Right. I would speak for myself. Like I think it's, well, one question I do want to ask you is, because you have many more years of sobriety on me, if you will, because I'm finding like, there's just layers, like it's just layer upon layer. Like it just gets A, better, but B, it's not like gets to a point where there's no longer the work, in air quotes.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. So first of all, for anyone listening, we're recording our video right now, and I'm looking at my hair, and it's so terrible. That's the beauty of it being just a podcast. So yeah, sometimes it's hard for me to see whether it's been years of sobriety or if it's been wisdom through aging, but I think it's a combination of both, because I got sober when I was 24. I'm 38 now. No one believes me when I say it, because I think, well, one of the reasons is, I haven't had a drink in 14 years, and I also don't have kids that I know of. And so I know that parenthood does age people. I have friends with kids. They are just wonderful. I have nephews. So my, brother and sister-in-law have kids. But I know it's a full-time job on top of having a full-time job. And so, they're just like that. I mean, the work is never done. There are some days or some weeks or months even where like, I am not actively trying to, I don't know how to put it without sounding like bizarre, but I'm not like actively trying to grow, like working on journals or courses or whatever. It's just like passive life growth, I suppose. But then there are times where I either recognize unhealthy patterns that might pop up, because just because I don't drink anymore doesn't mean that I haven't engaged in like unsober behaviors, quote unquote. I'm human, and I make boo-boos, I make mistakes. And, I've had unhealthy relationships with money. I've had some codependency issues. And so those just become more pronounced, but also more accessible to work on without having to wade through all of the junk of still struggling with a substance. So I'm not drinking anymore, but it doesn't mean I don't still have issues. But because I'm not drinking anymore, I can work on those issues and work to become a better version of myself. So some days, like I said, it is actively working towards something, whether I'm reading a book or working on a course or whatever. And then some days it's just like, I'm just living. But I think that it's going to be like this infinity layered onion that we just keep peeling back as time goes on. And it's like, it'll make us cry like an onion, but like in good ways and cathartic ways. And I don't even know where I'm going with this.
I love that analogy. I love it. So before we go, can you share like one tool besides like the power of building this community and having this sense of, maybe a little bit of responsibility of like being present and participating and creating community around the positive nature of sober life, like more of a personal tool that you mentioned journaling, but maybe like something that's your go-to when you know that something needs to be addressed, that you need to feel the feels?
Yeah. Well, a couple of things. One is that I let myself cry. If I need to cry, I cry. And there's no shame in that. And sometimes you just need to like release what's inside of you. Being outside in nature is honestly one of my biggest tools. It doesn't always give me quote unquote answers, but it just allows me to feel alive and connected to something greater. And so if I'll take myself on a walk like that just energizes me. And whether I come up with a solution to whatever I'm needing, or I just like exercise my heart and like breathe in fresh air. Honestly, like being outside in nature is a huge tool for me. And it's also like access to some sort of spirituality as well, because I feel like, nature is my house of worship, and I can feel both really small and part of something much greater and much larger when I'm in it. But I also want to say that therapy works, and I am on the hunt for a new therapist. So that work is never done. And I think that, it's something to applaud when someone wants therapy, as opposed to like, we should never shame someone for wanting support for their mental health. I mean, if anything, these past 2 years, almost 2 years, have shown that like we need support. We need to help each other. So those are just a couple of ways that I would suggest, or at least recommend tool wise. Mm-hmm.
1000% agree with you on all those fronts. What did you want to leave us with today? I feel like we do have to have another conversation, maybe in a couple months, if you're willing. We can pick like one topic that we kind of brushed on today and really, really drill down on it, because I think we have so much in common in terms of being pure empaths, the highly sensitive, like all the ways that people socially, it's like a social crutch
one thing that I can leave everyone with is that I'm sure by the time this episode is released, it will be October, and it's Sober October. So what better way to be curious about sobriety or just like a healthier way of being, and go into October with that like healthy, curious mindset, and try some new non-alcoholic beverages, and check out Zero Proof Nation. There's tons of really amazing things in just about any category that you can think of, ranging from wines, beers, spirits to botanicals, CBD, seltzers and tonics and shrubs and syrups. I mean, there's like literally almost
so many
anything.
cool things on the market. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. So just like
inspiring.
embrace curiosity and try some new things, and report back to me later.
Awesome. Oh my God. I love your tattoo.
Oh,
all right. Well, I hope this is a new friendship, and I look forward to collaborating with you more in the future, Laura. Thank you so much for being here, and we'll be in touch.
Lovely. Thank you, Megan.
Thank you so much for listening to Energetically You. I hope that this episode has helped you to tune into your natural energy sources so that you feel more energized and focused throughout your day. If you enjoyed the episode, please take a second to rate and review. Each review helps us to help more ambitious women just like you accomplish their goals. Don't forget to take a screenshot, share it on social or in your Instagram stories, and tag me at Megan Swan Wellness. See you soon.